He's the new general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's Kyle Dubas, and he joins us in studio. Good to see you, and congratulations on the new gig.
Thank you, Bob.
So you're young, but I was 23 years old when I started doing this. You're not the youngest general manager in the history of the Maple Leafs. That's
Stellick.
our friend Gord Stellick was, what, 26, 27, something like that?
No, was he
26, I think.
Yeah.
Conn Smythe was younger, too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you'd remember that, John. Congratulations. The guy in Arizona was
John Chayka.
26 when he got the job, too. So you're sort of an old man now, really. When you go into a restaurant now, before today, generally recognized, occasionally recognized?
Depends on where the restaurant is. If it's close to Air Canada Centre and it's on a game night, yes. If not, no. If it's in Sault Ste. Marie, yes.
That is all about to change. You understand that now.
We do.
Yeah. How close did you come, if at all, to leaving last year?
I think the process never got to the point where it was an actual decision. It was an idea and considered, and then Brendan made the call that I was going to be staying. So here we are.
Did he make you any promises at that time?
Not at that time. No.
So you have the potential, if not the opportunity, the potential to take the job in Colorado.
Sure.
And your president stands in the way of that.
Sure.
That would piss me off. Did it you?
I think in the short term, you have an opportunity, and you have tried to work towards that. But after the initial discussion with Brendan and kind of getting over that, I just said, you know what, you can look at it and feel sorry for myself, or get to work on the season ahead with the Maple Leafs. And I think that's really where my relationship with Lou was a big benefit, and leaning on Lou during all that, and leaning on Lou during the year to help to improve myself, and thus help improve the hockey club.
How did your relationship with Lou change over the course of the last 3 years? I made to understand it wasn't. I don't know. Rocky was probably
Sure.
the wrong word, but it was. You had to grow into it.
I don't think it was. It was certainly never rocky. It was, I think, from the outset, and I would put the blame to myself. Lou came into the organization. I had been here, and I think I could have been better in the first part of the first season, and maybe the whole first season, at learning as much as I possibly could from Lou, in not being stubborn or fixated on my way. And as I reflected after the first season, Bob, it was clear to me that I was leaving a lot on the table that I could be taking from Lou's mentorship. And so it was never ever rocky. I know, and I think it's partially maybe because the difference in age or the way that we look and operate, that it's an easy thing for people to say, but it was never rocky. I know that was reported, and he and I would kind of laugh about it because we've always had a very good relationship, and it's become a great one that I'm very appreciative of.
Where's the common ground between the two of you? And obviously, again, generationally, you're far apart. You come at hockey from different at different times and maybe with different approaches. So where did the circles intersect between the two of you?
I think from a non-hockey perspective, I think primarily, Stephen, when I saw the way that Lou treated people and treated my family, treated me personally, you grow an appreciation for someone who's in that role and leading, and how they treat you personally, and I think more importantly, how they treat your family. And aside from hockey, we have a connection over baseball, and we talk a lot about baseball. But in the end, I think we both love hockey, and no matter whether we come at it from different eras or different time frames, I think that was the key point, and systems of how you run an organization, how you treat people. All of that, I think, was the key, and we developed a very good personal relationship, not just as it pertained to hockey, but for me, how to handle myself outside of hockey, treating people, how to handle the media, how to handle all the various different elements that they'll always be of huge importance to me as I move ahead.
So you spoke the same language, though? Or did it take time to figure out that you actually did speak the same language?
I don't think we ever spoke precisely the same language. I think we when we had the thing that really evolved was when we had a difference in how I thought things were and versus how Lou had thought for a long time. It just created good discussion. I think you're getting to a good relationship point with somebody when you can have a difference of ideas and walk away from it and never really worry that it's going to impact your relationship long term. You're all trying to reach the same goal, which was to help the Maple Leafs. And I think for me, that was the major thing from Lou that I gained was, the bringing in of different ideas and how to put them all together to best help the Maple Leafs.
When did Brendan tell you that he wanted to be the manager?
Wednesday. What day is Friday today?
Yeah, Friday.
Yeah. Wednesday, he brought me in and told me.
So you actually mentioned Peter Miller, the company lawyer,
Sure.
in your discussion today. He obviously did a little bit of the contract work.
Sure.
Have you talked to Lou since you got the job?
I've talked to Lou throughout the process, and I've talked to Lou.
But since Wednesday?
Oh yeah, I've talked to Lou twice Wednesday, I think 3 times yesterday, and then he and I have been texting all day today. So, continual contact with Lou.
Can we now lead that to mean that your senior advisor will be an active member of your group?
For me, yes. Lou will always be an active member, regardless. We could be 10 years from now, and Lou will always be, to me, an active member in my life, hockey or otherwise. And right now, in his role, absolutely.
Assuming he doesn't go somewhere else.
Did you when Brendan when Lou's change in job was announced, Brendan said that this was the timeline all along. This is how his contract was structured, and he was going to do this many years as GM, and then he was going to become a consultant. Mm-hmm. Did you know that was the timeline?
I had a very general sense that they had discussed it as we had talked about it last spring, but I didn't know the exact specifics of it. And I think Lou has always been very good with me in preparing me wherever it was going to be able to take those necessary steps.
But you didn't know that at the end of this season that was going to happen?
Not for certain. No.
Okay.
No.
When did you tell your grandmother?
I told her, last night after last night I called her, because those are important calls. And I think that's when you realize the importance of what you're doing and how much it means to the other people that have been on the journey with you as you get their reaction.
And
she was pumped, but her focus is back to the Sioux game tonight right away.
There we go.
Yeah.
So,
Kyle Dubas, the new general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs. It was widely speculated that either you or Mark Hunter would be offered the position of replacing Lou Lamoriello. Obviously, you have worked with Mark from some period of time, and we have all wondered whether Mark will have a continuing role within the organization. Tell me have you talked to him, and what do you think happens with Mark?
I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody really today, and I think my major goal for the weekend is to let the dust settle from today, and then throughout the weekend reach out to every member of our management group and our scouting department, and then in Mark's case, next week schedule a situation where he and I can sit down and chart the course ahead and see where everything is at. I understand the questions about it and why people are curious about it, of course. But I think that's the best way to proceed moving forward in a positive manner for everybody.
We've talked about your relationship with Lou. Tell us about your relationship with Mr. Hunter.
I think with Mark, it's altered during the time we've been here. In the first year, the organization with Dave Nonis as the general manager was very different than how Lou runs it. So Lou has things structured in the first year. We worked very closely on a lot of things. In the subsequent years, 2, 3, 4, Mark has been very openly leading up our scouting department. We both have jointly assisted with the Leaf stuff that Lou required, and my focus has been primarily on our player development model, which includes the Marlies, and in our research and development arm. So there's obviously a lot of crossover there. You sit at the draft table, you sit in all the draft meetings, you sit during training camp and trade deadline, so on and so forth. And I would say that our relationship is good, and there's a lot of discussion on a lot of topics between everybody.
We talked to Greg Milne earlier, who is a pal of yours.
Unfortunately.
I gather. Well, he had some very kind things to say to you, and one of the things he said is the perception of you is that you are a stats geek. One of those new wave nerds. And he indicated that that's not really true, that you have an appreciation and an understanding of that world, but that does not mean that the eyeball test and scouting is of no significance to you. Fair?
Well, I grew up in scouting, so yes, fair. I grew up in scouting. That's what I started doing everything with the Sioux. I was 11, but when I was 17, I started scouting for the Greyhounds, and I grew up scouting and in player development. I'd always had an affinity for that form of analysis. I found it interesting, primarily in baseball. And then when I went back to Sault Ste. Marie as the general manager, I thought that it was an excellent way to supplement. The Sioux is a great organization, has great ownership. It's a great community for junior hockey, but it doesn't have the resources that the other teams in the league have.
Right.
So we needed to find a way to be more resourceful with what we had and to try to find a different edge than other teams in our league and our competitors, where we could better implement decision-making models to help us find the best players.
Which sounds like Billy Bean, by the way. Just you know,
Sure.
the junior hockey version thereof. But go ahead.
So that's what we tried to do, and I found it was a great help. I found that it certainly helps the decisions you make on acquiring players. I think it's a key piece for me. It's certainly not the only piece, but I hate when people say it's a tool in the toolbox. I don't look at it as a toolbox. It's a decision-making system that you have. And I think you'd be foolish to not incorporate objective information and data. It's up to you to determine to what degree you want to incorporate it or to what degree it's accurate or good data or bad.
I think how people still see it as two solitudes in a way. They did that in baseball for a long time too, right? Analytics v.
You're either one or the other.
Dollar sign on the muscle scouting, right?
Right.
And in baseball it's merged, right? That there are not two solitudes in baseball. What in hockey, because analytics is newer in hockey,
Sure.
Are there still kind of two camps, or is it starting to merge?
It's interesting. I think that when you listen to the commentary about it or you listen to the debate about it from people online or on Twitter, on social media, whatever it be, it's firmly in two camps. It's very binary.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're inside the game and you're going through the different decisions on players or on tactics or whatever, what have you, it's very much blended together. And I think that's where hockey is. Baseball has blended them together, and it's really changed the way that the game is played. I think you guys see it every night. There's been a shift in the way that the game is played. Basketball, there's been a shift in the way the whole game is played and the players that are valuable and not. And hockey is still in the infancy of that development. And I think it will continue to grow over time. And I think there's huge value in incorporating that in. We have a great department with the Maple Leafs led by Daryl Metcalf that do an excellent job. And they've got great relationships with all sectors of our hockey department. So it's been a lot of fun to see that grow.
So is that what you describe as your research and development group?
Yes. Yeah, I hate calling it just analytics or stats. They're researching and developing many different decisions in different areas that we can grow our team and our players.
Does Mark fight you on analytics?
I think Mark
He's
is
more old school. I
think that's the perception of Mark, but we've incorporated a lot into the scouting side, and Mark has those guys in on everything. So
every NHL team has an analytics department. Every team. The difference.
But the question is whether how much you utilize it, not whether you utilize it, but how much do you utilize it?
I think people will be shocked. Teams that don't advertise that they have analytics, how much they use.
Well,
I think
that's
the one difference in baseball. I think that that Theo Epstein walked into Boston and announced he was an analytics guy, and Billy Bean did it in Oakland. They started to win, and winning solves everything. Copycat.
And then everybody
scene.
started doing it, kind of leveled the playing field too, because everybody started having the same information.
Oh, well, when Stephen asked the question, I mentioned Billy Bean. I envisioned from the movie Moneyball that scene where Billy Bean is sitting at the end of the table and all the scouts are around the table and he starts talking about analytics stuff and they all look at him like he's lost his mind. I'm just wondering whether any of that kind of stuff has happened.
No, I've been through, whether it's in Sault Ste. Marie or here, trying to integrate it in. And I think there are two lenses, and you can elect to look through them each separately or throw one lens out, or you can try to combine them and strengthen your view of the game and players. That's really the way that I look at it, is you're trying to combine the two factors, put them together, and really help your team.
Okay, but the interesting thing is in the Sioux, sorry, John.
No, that's right.
Is that because of the situation there, it's not, again, not to make everything about Moneyball, but the reason Billy Bean could do that was because it was Oakland, and they had limited resources, and it almost gave you, it was a testing ground for you, wasn't it? In a lot of ways, didn't it give you the opportunity to do things that you might not have been able to do if that was, say, the London Knights?
I don't know. I knew that we were going to have to do things differently than those other teams, and those being our primary competitors in the conference and division that we were in. We weren't going to be able to match teams on resources and dollars, so we were going to have to gain our edges and advantages in different ways. And the ownership group there has been great. The current GM there, Kyle Raptors, who took over for me, has been great and continuing to develop that. I know they've continued to be progressive, and I'm thrilled more than anything of where the team is today.
Although I hope Hamilton kicks
if you're
their
on-
ass, by the way.
If you're on this show a
There
year
you go.
from now, how are you going to view success?
I think that everyone looks at the team in 2018-19 and says that it continued to take steps forward. I think it's hard to say that we haven't taken steps forward every year from 15-16 on. We finished last, of course, and then we made the playoffs and played Washington. And this year we had a very good regular season, pushed Boston to 7 games. I think progress externally is measured by you folks and by public perception. And I think for us internally, it'll just be that our young players are continuing to develop, that the team is continuing to show signs of working towards our goal of contending for the Stanley Cup every year, and that's where we're at. It's not walking into the situation I did here in 2014, knowing it was going to be painful, as Mike said when he started a year later, or when I went to the Sioux and knew that it was going to be a rebuild. This is a place that I've been. It's a great group of people that we have here, and it's continuing to push this thing in the right direction.
The perception is, you mentioned the coach, the perception is that this is not necessarily an easy coach to deal with, that he is filled with opinion and generally believes that his is better than anybody else's. And that, I'm not trying to
That doesn't sound like
belittle
anybody
him.
I know, but
Well, some of us got it and some don't. Well, tell me about your relationship with him.
From the day that Mike came on, he is on all the time. So I think people misconstrue his energy and his passion for hockey with being heavily opinionated. He has his way of being himself that I think people can misconstrue. He's very open to anything. You talked previously about what types of things we do analytically. The stuff that he gets from our research and development people. I've never seen a coach, maybe aside from Sheldon, with the Marlies, but go through it as in-depthly and look for the edges within that. So with Mike, what I've seen with him is he's very open to any ideas, doesn't care really where they come from, wants ideas from everybody, wants everybody's opinion, and then he's going to lead the charge as he should as the head coach, and people can perceive that as they might, which is fine. For me, you want the head coach to have an opinion right from the start, and if you want all your people to have opinions, but if you go through and everyone is going the same direction, you have no dissent among the group, whether that's in our R&D group, our player development group, our scouting group. If you all go off the cliff, you're all going to go off the cliff together. So that's really a key thing for me is that we have that.
How concerned are you about his relationship with the players?
I'm not. I mean, I'd have to, as we continue to immerse into that realm here, you obviously are mindful of everyone's relationships with everybody. I think the fact that he's on his way right now to the World Championships. He'll meet with some of our players. I like the fact that Mike, I know a big deal gets made of it, but I like the fact that Mike goes and in the off season when everyone's got some downtime will go in and have a personal meeting with the player. Really has nothing to do with hockey, and that's the same way he is with the staff as well.
I know you got to go. One more question before we let you wander off. Under most situations, not all, but most situations, when a new general manager comes into any organization, he comes from afar, and almost invariably when he's in Canada, we get a chance to talk to him, and quite often when you ask them about their plan, they'll defer to somewhere down the road. I'll figure this thing out. I don't know them that well. I've got to talk to them. I've got to do this. Well, you're not really in that position.
Sure.
You know what you got. Without being specific, because I know you can't. Have you made a lot of decisions about your roster for next year? You've got decisions to make with regard to free agents and things like that. Have you made those decisions in your own mind?
I think internally we've had discussions right through the year, and because of the positions and the very public nature of the contracts of the players, I think we've obviously had to keep that in mind as we charter our course through the season. So I would say that we've had continual dialogue on it, and to use Lou's greatest line, when time is on your side, you use it. And that's really what we intend to do here in the next couple of weeks is get together as a staff, get everybody's opinion again to see whether it was changed by the playoffs based on what we had going into the trade deadline, and then chart our course for how we want to handle all of our players, whether they're restricted or unrestricted, heading into the spring and summer, and also be mindful of players that may be available as free agents in trade.
Are you going to hire Kyle Dubas?
For me, I think we've got a great.
There, he's
staff
already
in
got
general.
one.
And
No,
so
It's him.
No, he's not Kyle Dubas anymore. He's the general manager.
Oh, he's got time. He's got time to do both.
He has
He's
no
got a
time.
staff of analytics
No,
experts. He already said.
You got to.
What are you looking for, a job?
I don't meet one. You got to fill your. You got to replace your.
today.
You got to replace that position.
I think we'll see. I think it goes. I would lump that in with. We'll meet with our whole crew here next week, in the coming weeks, and chart our course ahead as a staff. And I think you always keep in mind people that you might want to help come and support you. We have Cliff Fletcher, we have Lou, we have Mark, Brandon Pridham. Like we've got a good group there, and I'm mindful of having too big of a group as well. So it's we'll see if someone comes along that I think could add a lot to our situation, then we will. But I don't want it to become a big monster and with too many people.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Once again.
Thank you.
We wish you good luck down the road. We hope it's a long tenure in the position, and don't be a stranger. You're welcome here anytime.
Thank you.